one of the things that Jesus talked about would happen is wars and rumors of wars.
And you shall hear wars and rumors of wars.
Russia, Russia, Russia. Russia, Russia, Russia. Russia, Russia, Russia.
China. It's all there. It's all
That's
happening.
right, baby. We're wrapping it all up in 01. I'm going to start out with this article from CNN.com. I'm going to read a little bit and then summarize the rest because it will sort of set the stage for some more things we'll talk about.
Wow, big breaking news at the top there, too. Sorry.
What's that?
There's a breaking news. Key vote on bill aimed at preserving access to abortion nationwide fails in the Senate. So,
interesting.
Well, we'll get to that in a moment, by the way. The Roe v. Wade thing.
Yeah, there's also some breaking news in regards to China, which we'll bring up in a second.
Okay.
Okay, so we're starting out with at CNN. The headline is Putin's current dilemma was JFK's worst fear.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
Fear.
Yes. Part of the reason why I thought this was important, this sort of structure for an article was important, is because as we know, the media sort of creates reality. You know, they claim to record reality, but we know that creating reality, creating history, being the historical scribes, however they say it, is how it
history is
happens.
written by its scribes.
Yeah, by
it's true.
the
It's not just the
media.
victors. It's just the scribes in general.
Exactly. Yeah, they are the literal ones. And the victors, of course, being the billionaires that own the media. Right. So Putin's current dilemma was JFK's worst fear. And the reason I thought it was apropos is because when you reference, as they love doing, everybody in these elite circles love referencing history as a trigger to get the responses out of people that they want. And the article goes like this: reflecting on the Cuban Missile Crisis, President John Kennedy once warned that the nuclear powers, quote, must avert those confrontations which bring an adversary to a choice of either a humiliating retreat or a nuclear war. The showdown with Russian President Vladimir Putin over Ukraine does not yet mirror the 1 minute to midnight brinkmanship that brought the Soviet Union and the West to the cusp of Armageddon in October 1962, but Kennedy's superpower logic is resounding poignantly as Putin gets backed into a corner by the strategic disaster of his war. Ooh. Ukraine's heroic resistance and an extraordinary multi-billion-dollar allied conveyor of arms and munition.
So that's U.S. It's America.
That's us. It's our $33 billion.
Beautifully written there. Great.
Our military surplus liquidation project that we've been doing. President Joe Biden, who has always stated his twin aims are to help Ukraine defend itself and to avoid a direct escalation with Putin that could risk nuclear war, seems to have been mulling JFK's warning. Two Catholic presidents are two only Catholic presidents. They're trying to, again, they use the word, stated his twin aims, and then place JFK and Biden next to each other, kind of as twins.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you highlighted the showdown earlier with Putin and the kayfabe aspect of it, the WrestleMania using that exact
Sunday showdown.
I mean, they've had showdowns. So anyway, sorry, go ahead.
At a fundraiser in Potomac, Maryland on Monday night, Biden confided that he was concerned Putin had yet to devise an exit from the war, despite the former KGB officer's calculating nature. This is interesting because JFK's issue, there was a wonderful podcast series that I listened to recently that did a wonderful deep dive into the Cuban Missile Crisis and the historical the historical recording of JFK's thinking. And they quoted it at the top, which is, it's not that you want your enemy to find a way out. It's that you create the way out for your enemy. And they actually mention it here, but I don't know if I'll read it. So the fact that Biden is like, no, I don't think he's smart. He's calculating enough to get out of this is basically saying, like, I'm not going to help him. I'm going to let him launch a nuke, which is a really cool thing for our president to say. Yeah. Senior national security officials, meanwhile, admit they do not yet know what kind of incremental Russian success in the eastern and southern Ukraine would allow Putin to declare victory of sorts and escalate the war.
De-escalate.
CNN's Caitlin Collins. De-escalate. This is all a worry, but it's one that seems somewhat discordant with U.S. policy. After all, Washington's explicitly stated aim in supporting Ukraine is that Putin loses the war. Biden has asked Congress for $33 billion to send military and other kinds of aid to Ukraine, and the House on Tuesday voted to pass a roughly $40 billion bill. Washington is flooding the battlefield with an anti-tank, anti-aircraft missiles, radars, drones, artillery rounds, and howitzers. This aggressive Western approach, the slow progress of Putin's war of attrition, and the lack of any diplomatic effort to end the war mean that it is almost certain the Russian leader will get further backed into a dangerous corner. Putin's only exit option right now appears to be capitulation and a tacit admission that the Western effort, combined with the fierce Ukrainian courage, got the better of him, a position that would be politically impossible to adopt. And they talk a bit more about this. They reference the press conference from Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines, how he told a congressional committee that the U.S. view is there is not, quote, an imminent potential for Putin to use nuclear weapons. So that's good news against all
I just
evidence.
Thought we were just told that how scary the nuclear, the whole JFK comparison. Mm-hmm. But all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm skipping down a bit. Russia's willingness to threaten the use of nuclear weapons in a way that the Soviet Union rarely did during the Cold War to terrorize Western publics is meanwhile underscoring the kind of advantage the world's most fearsome arsenal can bring to rogue states that want to forestall the possibility of Western intervention. Now, this next headline here, Putin shows no sign of eyeing the exits, more or less just talks about how he's just kind of plowing forward, making moves. They talk about his Victory Day speech. He's willing to prolong the whole thing, which, look, of course, we are willing to prolong the whole thing as well. Yeah. We're sending money over there. We're putting Ukraine into debt.
We just bought the whole show. Of course, it's got to go on for a while. We're going to have lots of ups and downs, and it'll be it's an adventure.
And if we shut down this war, we're just going to have to start another one.
I know.
Keep it going. So it's kind of this back and forth about whatever, trying to create this theater for the public. There is this quote, which was interesting. Quote, "The current trend increases the likelihood that President Putin will turn to more drastic means, including imposing martial law, reorienting industrial production, or potentially escalatory military actions to free up the resources needed to achieve his objectives as the conflict drags on, or if he perceives Russia is losing in Ukraine," Haines said. That's the National Intelligence Director. The idea that Putin could be coaxed out of a strategic cul-de-sac in which he finds himself also falls down for two other reasons. First, the Russian leader refused all diplomatic off-ramps.
Not true. Mm-hmm. Wasn't he the one that he started the conversation first? Right? I'm not holding water for Putin. This is just recording
just how it happened.
We're hearing reporting what I heard.
No, but we're rewriting history.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. He's off ramps, diplomatic off ramps. He blew them all up with chemical weapons. Go ahead.
I'm going to skip they kind of go into like, oh, he doesn't want to lose his reputation. He doesn't want to lose his prestige. He's a crazy man who's more, just basically painting him as Trump. He's Trump. So, you never know what he's going to do.
He's the Russian Trump. There you go.
Yeah. Skipping down a bit more just to make the point, they talk about how French President Emmanuel Macron tried to talk sense into him and couldn't do it. And I mean, if he can't do it, nobody can.
Macron then spoke to Chinese President Xi Jinping, a Putin ally, on Tuesday, after which the Elysee Palace said they had agreed on the urgency of a ceasefire. I like that. It's like, hey, Xi, your buddy Putin's not listening, man. You gotta talk to your friend.
Yeah, I love it. Skip it down again. Yeah. His comments reflected they're talking about comments from what's his name? Oh, this was Biden. It's just Biden talk, He's just talking. He's talking about how all the massacres and the butchery, and at least they want to think about the possibility of bringing a ceasefire and starting again, some credible negotiations. That's the situation right now. I think that we have to think deeply on how to address this. Yeah, no kidding, Biden.
Boy, it's really a productive segment, man.
Yeah, really productive thing. His comments reflected a growing nervousness that without some kind of outside intervention,
UFOs, aliens,
perhaps,
interdimensional beings.
A growing nervousness that without some outside intervention, Putin could well get pushed into the kind of corner that Kennedy was talking about in a speech at American University in June 1963. Months earlier, as the world had held its breath in fear of nuclear war, Kennedy had engineered a way for Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev to stand down without losing face in their standoff over Cuba. 6 decades later, some kind of similar accommodation, however, painful that might be, could be required for Putin. So they make the point that Kennedy created a way out for Khrushchev. And that was sort of the genius of Kennedy at the moment. And Biden is doing the exact opposite. He sort of has this idea is like, hey, it's not my responsibility. He has to find his own way out of this, which is literally the exact opposite strategy that ended the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I think the reason is because Ukraine, we still have a mission in Ukraine, and that is to capture it, to get them into debt, to take control of it. We're not finished with Ukraine yet. So we don't want to give Putin a way out too early.
Right.
And so they're trying to compare JFK and Biden as these sort of, two sides of the same Catholic coin. And yet we see Biden doing the exact opposite of what got us out of the first nuclear crisis, or the most memorable nuclear crisis. And that's the way CNN is setting it up for us. And I think we do need some outside influence. Perhaps it's interdimensional beings. Yeah. But at the same time, we also have the China problem.
Yeah.
And you want to tell us about the China problem, Gons?
Yeah. So before we jump into this China problem, real quick, the same quote that we just covered about martial law in Russia, there was a Business Insider headline: Putin will likely resort to imposing martial law in Russia to support his invasion of Ukraine, U.S. intel chief says. That article has been taken down by Business Insider. Yeah. So I don't know why stuff is being taken down, but there you go.
They didn't like it.
Yeah, they don't like it. So moving on to China. This is CNN, back to CNN here. U.S. intelligence officials warn China is working hard to be able to take over Taiwan militarily.
Working hard or hardly working, okay. Am I right?
Yeah. The U.S. intelligence community believes that China is actively attempting to build a military capable of taking over Taiwan. By the way, from what I've heard and been reported, it's already ready. Like, if they do a physical military takeover of Taiwan, it would take like a day. It would just be like, boom, it's over.
And what people are forgetting, and what the media is not reporting anymore, is that China was militarily threatening Taiwan months before the Ukraine thing happened. Yeah. They've basically been pulling stunts all through the pandemic.
Yeah,
flying planes over, invading, their space in the ocean, parking ships. They've been militarily threatening Taiwan for quite some time. And now suddenly they're like, ooh, China might be thinking about it.
So here's, again, this is CNN. So keep that in mind. The U.S. intelligence community believes that China is actively attempting to build a military capable of taking over Taiwan, even in the face of U.S. support for the island, top U.S. intelligence officials told Congress today. The threat to Taiwan between now and 2030 is acute, Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines, there she is again, said during a hearing before the Senate Armed Services Committee. In our view, that China is working hard to effectively put themselves into a position in which their military is capable of taking Taiwan over our intervention, Haines said, declining to publicly provide further details on the intelligence community's timeline, because independent people have been reporting more accurate information that, these people cannot. For national security. But she and Defense Intelligence Agency head Lieutenant General Scott Berrier cautioned the U.S. doesn't yet know what lessons Chinese President Xi Jinping will take from Russia's war in Ukraine and the Western assistance that has flowed to Kiev. How Xi and the Chinese Communist Party interpret the events of that crisis could impact its timeline and approach to Taiwan, the two officials said. Haines and Berrier also noted that the U.S. believes that China would prefer to avoid a military conflict over Taiwan if possible. Quote, I believe the People's Republic of China would rather not do it by force, Berrier said. I think they would rather do this peacefully over time. Taiwan is also, of course, sure, but...
Well, it's, I don't know if we want them to do it peacefully over time.
No.
Because if they go on do a full military thing, we're not going to send U.S. troops over there, but we would love to give Taiwan $33 billion worth of American debt.
We need some... it'll be
get another little proxy post out there outside Chinese.
You've been mentioning the economic hitman, but that's exactly what this would be again. This economic war, funding weapons and stuff. Taiwan is also learning some important lessons. Quote, there are some things that we can do with Taiwan, he said. I think they're learning some very interesting lessons from the Ukrainian conflict, like how important leadership is. How important your puppet master is, or your puppet. Now, how important small unit tactics are, how important a non-commissioned officer corps is, and really effective training with the right weapon systems, and what those systems with the right people would be able to do to thwart that. Interesting. Okay, so of course, it sounds like these guys want military conflict. On Saturday, CIA Director Bill Burns also said that Russia's conflict in Ukraine has affected China's calculations when it comes to how and when it goes about attempting to take over or take control of Taiwan. Clearly, this is a quote, clearly the Chinese leadership is trying to look carefully about the lessons. Okay, we get it. They're looking at it. They're looking at Ukraine and learning lessons. And again, in my mind, this is already almost like a done deal. I think China's going to flip the switch and make this happen at some point in the next few years, and again, once that happens, if the U.S., depending on how things look in the relationship, if the U.S. decides to do similar things that we've been doing to Russia, then that's a much bigger disruptor because of our the goods and services, or more so goods, tied to China.
They want it so badly. I know.
I just wish they would rip the Band-Aid and we just, rebuild. Come on, let's make it happen. Let's just do the pain and just let it happen. Right. Hit the reset button.
So real quick, I just want to, so why though? Why is the thing? And I'll tell you why. So we talked about from the very beginning, the fact that Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. 25%, it's something crazy like 25% of Europe's and possibly the world's wheat all comes from Ukraine. It is sort of a resource hub for much of the world. And that's, the wheat disruption in Ukraine has become a big problem. Around the world, skyrocketing food prices, not just in the U.S., but everywhere. And so the U.S. basically purchasing Ukraine or giving Ukraine $33 billion worth of debt that they'll never be able to pay back secures our access to their wheat production. Mm-hmm. We've done this. We've pulled this move all over the place. We've pulled it in South America for oil. We've pulled it in places in North Africa and the Middle East. It's a common thing. Again, go read or listen to the Confessions of an Economic Hitman. But we're doing it in Ukraine specifically for the wheat production. Taiwan, the reason why we would want to do the same thing in Taiwan, and why China moving militarily on Taiwan, allowing us, again, to both refresh our military industrial complex and put Taiwan into American debt, is the semiconductor industry. Semiconductors are, Taiwan is the biggest semiconductor manufacturing center in the world. That's partially why it's, you can't buy cars with computers in them right now. Anything that uses semiconductors, which is one of the vital ingredients in pretty much any piece of electronics. That's why electronics and cars and everything is so expensive, is because semiconductor industry has been disrupted. That's also why China wants the semiconductors. But if we have a justification to go in and defend Taiwan and make them, sort of beholden to us, and we get them in a bunch of American debt, boom. Now, through both of these conflicts, we secure 25% of the world's wheat production. And my gosh, I don't know what exactly the number is, but it's a huge percentage. It's 50%, I believe, of the world market of semiconductors in Taiwan. So boom, we control electronics and we control food, both through these sort of manufactured conflicts that, again, we have no interest in stopping. It is only to the U.S.'s benefit as the sort of, empire of the world for these conflicts to go.
I don't like because obviously China, China trying to secure Taiwan, and then maybe, Russia can sort of piggyback off of that, so they own part of that economy or whatever. I don't like the fact that China is challenging the U.S. because the U.S. is like, we can just keep printing money and we can just keep funding
we want
this
it, man. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep printing money. We're gonna
cash to fund the war. But
it's great. It's great. So I'm just predicting right now, and that's why they're going to be dragging on Ukraine for so many reasons. But we gotta secure Ukraine, and we gotta secure Taiwan. That is the long play here for the continued dominance of the U.S. in the world.
The names and the times and the places may change, but nothing else does.
It may look different.
It may not different characters, but it's the same play. Or
may not look exactly the same, but whatever happens in the next years, we will gain control of Taiwan, either through debt or through occupation. In the name of defense, by the way.
Sure.
I've got a quick, just a quick note. At the same time, this is a Reuters.com headline. Biden says Fed targeting inflation, China tariffs under review.
Yeah.
So he came out, he did a big speech about inflation where he's finally saying, inflation is real, but it's all the Republicans' fault, which is pretty funny. And at the same time, he took the opportunity to talk about lifting tariffs on China, meaning opening up trade with China even more, which is just a deliciously ironic situation for us to be in.
Do you want that quote? I have it highlighted here.
Yeah.
Okay, so as part of this article, it says here, quote, "We're in power," Biden said when asked whether he deserved the blame for high prices. Quote,
"Oh, yeah.
We control all three branches of government." Well, we don't really, he added, lamenting his fellow Democrats' inability to get other spending bills passed because of their narrow control of Congress.
Yeah, also, that's not why. That is also not why that's an erroneous claim. Because the Democrats do not control all three branches of government. I'm not sure at this point if Biden knows what all three branches of government are. You got the executive branch, the what is it called? The parliamentary branch?
What? No, judicial, executive.
I know. What's the one of Congress? I forget the word for it, but it's
the brain fart. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing.
Yeah, look it up real quick. Fix it. It's something like somebody in chat help us. Jeez. But yes, judicial branch.
I said judicial, and then executive, judicial.
Stop it. Stop talking.
Legislative. Thank you.
Legislative. Thank you. Okay, so you got the executive, the legislative, and the judicial, and it's hilarious because we are right in the thick of mainstream narrative of, it's the conservatives that control the judicial branch. The Democrats do not control the judicial branch. That is a silly thing. And the idea that a political party could control the judicial branch goes against the very concept of the judicial branch.
This is Joe speaking too much in his backroom conversations with Obama. And Obama's sitting there, we control all three branches of government, Joe. We did it. Right. And Joe's like, and then he's got to backtrack, and they got to write articles about how he didn't mean it and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we love it. Okay, here's just a quick little piece of breaking news that came out this morning, Gons.
Okay.
Now, I can only find this in the kind of weird, sketchy India news articles, which are, we know, half of Indian news outlets are propaganda. Are propaganda, and the CIA has a hand in that. You know, International Business Times being a classic representation of how the Smith-Mundt Act works, which is, we can't lie to the American people, but we can get other countries to lie to the American people and then report on them lying,
right?
Or report their lies as truth. And that's what the International Business Times is. It's a sort of intelligence outlet. So this is coming from the ibtimes.com. Chinese president, this was this morning, Chinese President Xi Jinping suffering from cerebral aneurysm. Report. Chinese President Xi Jinping is suffering from a cerebral aneurysm, which resulted in him being hospitalized at the end of last year, reports in Indian media said.
I thought this was... Oh, maybe this is...
It's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing... Right. We're bringing it back.
All right. Because I thought it was like more breaking.
Well, it's breaking because the news about Taiwan is coming out.
Oh, okay.
So this is the perfect time to remind everybody.
Right. So he's losing his mind, or he's losing touch with reality. Okay.
Exactly. It's the same thing they did to Putin. His brain is broken. Yeah. His brain is broken. He's a madman. Whatever he does from now, he's acting out in some existential, tantrum because of his impending death. Mm-hmm. They did the same thing to Putin, and they did the same thing to Trump.
Yep.
So there you go. Just keep an eye out. This, more than anything, tells me that something's about to happen.
Man. Yeah. It just won't end.